What a movie. Stayed with me for days. Made me think a lot about the future. So well done. Seriously. To kick things off, I want to go to Frankie first. How is it now in your life juggling, racing, but also filming a movie? Like that's got to be tough, especially a movie like this that has so many real world implications that I'm going to get into in a minute.
Yeah, I mean, we filmed this actually in May. We started May of 2023. Like literally, I raced at Charlotte Motor Speedway and then left the race and went to Spring Hope, North Carolina, where we started filming like the next day or 2 days later. And the day I finished there, I went back to the racetrack to do the next race. So I could really focus on them separately, if that made sense. You know what I mean? Like it worked out really, really good. This role, obviously, I wanted to make work no matter what the scheduling was because it's just so kind of different. And I just remember reading the script and just being like not being able to put it down, but not knowing where it was going to go. You know what I mean? Like, what I thought in my head the movie was going to be on page 45 is not where it went on page 90. And that really excited me. So I was thrilled to be a part of it. And definitely nervous because it's I think most the hardest acting I've ever had to do, if that makes sense. And but I'm thrilled how it turned out. So it worked out good. Thanks to Robert.
Yeah, and I want to pass it to Robert because I was gonna ask about that. Like, obviously AI is, I mean, you can't go anywhere anymore without people talking about it, good or bad. Obviously it's not, that's a discussion for another time, but how is it to kind of, direct and partly write a movie that is such a hot topic right now? It's really it's the catalyst going on right now.
Yeah, it's a good question. When we started, though, it was not the catalyst. This was 2023. The script was even a year before that. People were like just inklings of sort of talking about this. And so we really had to project as much forward into the future as we could. And we would sort of share articles with each other about, this little piece. And I remember just to kind of get in the head of the character of Renner, I downloaded this app that allows you to like talk to like simulated girlfriends, just to be like, what is this?
Oh,
What
for
is
oh for the character for
this?
the
Yeah,
got
yeah,
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
exactly.
I'm gonna
Was
use that
like,
one.
and then found that there's this huge world at that, I mean, bigger now, but at that time, this huge world of people who are really the character, who are really just having relationships with these artificial bots. And and so it's been really interesting as the film changes. But our core was is that the technology is going to change, but really there's something very human and primordial about the story and the relationship, specifically with Renner and his mother, that we felt is timeless. So even
Yeah.
though lots was changing, it was important that we told it from a perspective and in a way that opened it up for many generations to experience.
And I gotta go to Frankie. Well done, sir. You said it was the hardest, some of the hardest acting. I can agree. I was laughing the entire time because my wife has like OCD, and I kept like looking at her and I'm like making fun of her during the thing. But how did you prepare for something like that? Like not only the AI aspect, but also there's so many like idiosyncrasies that you layered into the character. It's really, really fascinating.
I think a lot of that really was Robert, right? We would talk about all the scenes, we'd kind of go over everything. We kind of had a game plan. We had to make sure that, because you don't film everything in order, right? So you also have to know like what level you're at, right? What level of OCD or what level of lack of OCD or what level of crazy or whatever it may be, and figuring that out. But you know, this might sound weird because like you've seen the movie, right? You've seen the character. I really had a real tough time leaving the set and going back to where I was staying and distinguishing what was like a real emotion and what was from the movie, like what was from like filming. Because it brought so much out of me that I'd never really thought of. And I don't know, it was a really interesting experience, 100%. But I do remember being nervous about certain days, right? Like certain scenes or certain moments that we had to film. And I do remember leaving the set every day going like, I don't know how it looked from the outside, but that's exactly I got out exactly what I thought I was trying to do. And I very rarely have done that as an actor. I've always kind of been like, it was different in my head, but they said it was okay. You know what I mean? Type of thing. So it was a really interesting experience. And I hope people check it out. Like I hope they accept me in a different role, in a different light. But it was fun for sure.
And for both of you guys, I want to talk about obviously how intimate this was. It felt like a futuristic play. Like it was really cool. Were there any scenes that were hard to either be behind the camera or in front? I mean, Frankie, I mean, you had a lot of phenomenal solo scenes. We could talk about the Monopoly scene all day long. That was great. What was anything like especially hard? Like you said, it was hard to kind of get out of the mindset of that. Was there anything that was especially hard to get through?
I thought it would be. Does that make sense? But, and I'm not just saying it because he's here. Like Robert was really good at like if I had any questions or, and like, I don't know, what do you think about this? And we really worked really well together to kind of get the most out of me, but the character and the story and all that. So I don't know. Nothing necessarily stands out per se because like every day was a hard day. Does that make sense? Like there was a
Yeah.
scene every day that we filmed that was like intense in some capacity, but all di like different levels, like different emotions and all that. So I remember thinking that like I looked at the scheduling going like, well, every day I got to be on my A game, right? I don't get like an easy day where I'm just like laying on the couch. My favorite scenes to film on Malcolm in the Middle were the scenes that I was asleep in.
That's
Which
amazing.
happened more times than you think.
Uh, and Robert, how was it for you? Like, I mean, again, such an intimate, but it just felt like I said, almost like a futuristic play. It just kind of like was a real study in character study.
Yeah, I mean, it's a challenge because it's so much on the actors, which can be intimidating. And at the same time, the actors need to hold it completely, which means any tiny little false moment, you might lose the audience, you might lose the sort of through line, you might lose like what that core heart of the movie is. And, a big testament to Frankie and to Violett and to Taylor is, they're we would never have a false moment. And if we would make sure to not continue, like if, so sometimes it would be just like running takes, and I maybe wouldn't give any direction, and it would sort of like be a little maybe unsettling, but that was sort of just all like this is all based in something real, and to get there we have to draw on what's real from ourselves. And that, just deeply grateful for Frankie and for the other actors to access that, because there is a way to act without having to access that. But ultimately I think the performances that really shine through are the ones um that go there, and that's really hard work. But I think it's ultimately performances that are memorable and that really move audiences.
And Frankie, you mentioned obviously not knowing where this is going to end up. What was your first thought when you read the script and that ending, which is just like comes out of nowhere to me?
I remember like because my wife was maybe in the room with me when I was reading it, and I remember going like, "Oh, it's this movie and it's AI," and then I'm like, "Whoa!" It kind of goes here, and I just never would have expected, even when I watched it right for the first time, I know what's gonna happen, and it still takes you by surprise. You know what I mean? So that's my favorite kind of movie. You know what I mean? That what you think the movie is for the first 40 minutes definitely isn't what you'll think the movie is at the end. And I think that's exciting for people, and it's kind of hard to talk about without giving obviously too much away. But I am excited for people to see it and excited to hear what people think.
That's awesome. And I'll close with Robert. Obviously, you mentioned earlier that it was filmed before, obviously, the whole AI discussion. What do you want people to take away from the film? Obviously, again, it is just flooding. It's almost like the internet and social like 10 years ago, just flooding our feeds, flooding everything. What would you like people to take away from this? Because there's so much depth and layers to this. There's so many different like underlying themes and
Turn
stories.
off the internet. No, I'm kidding. I'm
Yeah.
kidding.
Curious.
Disconnect it. No, I'm kidding.
I mean, I think the big thing for me, and I mean, hopefully the film speaks for itself and people, decipher their own meaning and takeaway. But, AI is fundamentally about expediting time, making things more efficient. And I think that with it, it can come more time for us as humans. And I think ultimately that it's less about measuring time and experiencing it. And hopefully AI can help us get closer to not measuring less of our time and what is more efficient and how to do more with less, but giving us more time to experience more of what's out there.
I love that. As long as the AI is not your mom, that's the big thing.
Yeah.
Well, hey,